unpacking today's headlines. This is Souls and Liberty in Depth.
Hello everyone, welcome to In Depth, the production of Souls and Liberty, brought to you in part by partnership with MyPillow.
I am asking y'all from the core of my being to take our lives seriously. Please, do not put our lives in the hands of politicians, mostly men, who have no clue or do not care about what we as women are going through.
The communist obsession with abortion, later on that, but first...
They're bringing out that tired old argument on Trump being Hitler again. And I mean, if anybody's run an authoritarian government, it's the Biden administration.
All right, 8 days to go, and at bat today is Souls and Liberty political consultant Jim Ellis. Jim, we're in the final lap. Where do things stand? First, with the presidential race, the mail-in ballots, the mail-in ballot requests, the early vote turnout, the polls. What do all the early signs point to so far?
Well, Gary, the early signs are pretty good, it looks like, for Donald Trump. Just as an anecdote, I was with one of his key people on Saturday night at an event, and the Trump internals apparently think they can win all of the swing states, all 7 of them, which would give them 312 electoral votes. Remember, you need 270. What Trump needs to do is carry all 25 states that he won before, including North Carolina, which is his weakest, but that's looking good on early votes right now. And then he needs 35 more electoral votes from the swing states. So there's plenty out there for him to be able to do that. And right now, things are looking good. The early votes, I've been tracking those religiously because I've found those are a very good predictor of momentum, and momentum is usually a predictor of victory. And the 3 best states right now for Republicans, actually the 4 best, North Carolina, which is a must win for Trump. And that's looking really good. The first time in history that there are more Republican early votes than Democratic.
Yeah, I saw that over the weekend also. I'm tracking those kind of along, excuse me, or at least in parallel to you. And
right.
My eyes popped out when I saw that. I went, what? There's actually physically more raw Republican votes in early voting? Wow.
Yes. Now, that's happened in Georgia and Arizona before, and it is again. Georgia's looking pretty good. Arizona was looking better earlier. It's closed up a little bit now. Nevada is the surprise. That state as well, we've had more early Republican votes than Democrats. First time in history. So that's very positive there for Trump. And Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania Republicans do not vote early, but they're up. I mean, they're still way behind the Democratic number right now, but they are up based on their previous history, and that's what you need to look at. And the Democrats are a little bit down.
Right.
So these are good signs right now for Republicans.
Let me ask you what you put on your kind of political psychologist's hat for a moment here and tell me, what do you think is happening? I mean, it's not like the Democrats are unaware that, you need to pile up, your wall, your breach wall in early voting.
Right.
If they're not turning out in the numbers you would expect compared to 2020, and Republicans are more so, what's going on over on the Democratic side, do you think?
Oh, well, they're obviously ramping up their turnout operation, which is already good. I mean, their ground operation is better than the Trump campaigns. The Trump campaign outsourced that, and I don't know if that's such a good thing, but the Democrats definitely have a better ground operation. But they still, what are you going to do if people don't turn out? And that's, I think, their problem. The enthusiasm definitely appears to be on the Republican side right now early. Again, we have a week. Most of the states will cut off the early voting on Friday.
Right.
So we still have another full week, really, 5 days at least, of serious early voting. I voted in my precinct here on Sunday. And couldn't really tell. I went on Sunday because I figured the turnout would be a little lower on Sunday. I've been there before on Saturdays, and it's been pretty heavy. But it was difficult to tell where we were because the way they do it in Virginia here is reported by county, so I just can't tell. All I know is I was the 2018th person to vote in that location. but but that's over the course of the entire early voting period.
Right.
So that we're just a little bit over halfway through that. So it's difficult to tell here. Virginia is not a state that is going to play a factor, however, in the presidential race, I don't believe, although there is one poll that has him down to Harris by just 1 point. So, if a state like that pops, it's all over.
Oh, sure.
So remember, the key thing to watch on election night, first 3 states to watch, North Carolina, number 1, Georgia, and then Pennsylvania. Trump wins all 3 of those, it's over.
Right.
He's got his 35 votes,
yeah.
and all he has to do is hold all the other 24 states that have voted for him twice, and he looks solid everywhere.
Yeah, that's not so bad. Just before we go to our little break here, I want to run some other numbers by you. They're certainly not official, but I don't think they're nothing also. The Elon Trump, I'm going to call it an interview, about the discussion they had about a month and a half ago. That has over 1 billion, that's with a B, billion views on Twitter. And yes, or on X. I already know view doesn't mean people sat and watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
But 1 billion is 1 billion. And if only 5% of the billion people watched it, that's 50 million people. Let's flash forward to the Joe Rogan interview with Trump, which was an interview. It's 3 hours long. It has almost 35 million views already. And yesterday's Madison Square Garden feed, just on Trump's X account, just on his X account, the live stream had almost 13 million views. I mean, those numbers, granted, they're not official numbers. There's nothing they can gauge really by, except to say they're freaking gigantic. That doesn't mean nothing.
No, you're absolutely right. And they're anecdotal, but it shows momentum. And you don't see Harris countering with anything, do you?
No.
In fact, now she cancels interviews. She cancels the Joe Rogan interview, which I was shocked by that. I mean, Joe Rogan has endorsed her.
Yeah.
And she cancels that interview? It's hard to explain that, Gary. I don't understand what they're up to.
I think you got
now, the other things you need to look at. Here's the other anecdotal thing, and always watch the other side. Always watch your opponents as to what they are doing, because they tell you what their internal data shows.
Sure.
We've got 2 instances in Pennsylvania and in Wisconsin, and I understand, I haven't seen the ad, but I understand it's happening in Ohio as well, where the Democratic senator, this is Bob Casey, Pennsylvania Jr., Bob Casey Jr. of Pennsylvania, Sherrod Brown, Ohio, Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin. They are all multi-term senators, Democrat senators. They are all featuring Trump in their ads now.
Vote for me. I'm with Trump.
All of a sudden. Yeah. Well, Casey now says in his ad in Pennsylvania that I support the Trump tariff or the Trump trade policies.
Yeah.
Well, really?
Why'd you vote against him?
This guy's he is a 99% party line voter in the Senate.
Yeah.
And he still trades upon his father's legacy. His father was a 2-term attorney general and a 2-term governor, and he was a true conservative, pro-life Democrat.
Yeah.
His son is not. His son is the exact opposite.
Oh, yeah. Bill Clinton chased him out of the 90. People might not remember, Bill Clinton chased Bob Casey off the stage in the 92 convention because he was pro-life. Said, get the hell out of here. And that was sort of the end of any sort of pro-life Democrats.
That's right. That's right.
All right, Joe, we're going to take a break. We're going to take a break. We got to hit our commercial here. But when we come back, I want to talk with you about Kamala's closing argument, which seems to be hate Trump and hate babies. Doesn't seem like the best argument. Be right back. The establishment has tried to assassinate President Trump twice. But we can't really be shocked that those who slaughter 1 million unborn babies each year would try to kill one more human being who stands in the way of their diabolical agenda. Trump, like every one of us, including all of us at Souls and Liberty, is a sinner. But like all of us, he is in the fight and fighting for all of us to get one more chance, maybe a last chance, to save the republic. We must hang together, or as Benjamin Franklin said, we shall hang separately. And maybe far sooner than many imagine, because communists take over and always persecute Christians and Catholics in particular. Let us help you fight these forces of evil. Become a monthly supporter today so we can continue giving you the information, the tools of our faith, and the support network you need to go out and save souls and save our nation. Join our merry band of happy warriors and click below to get into the fight. We need you, we need each other. Join the resistance. Become a monthly donor today. All right, Jim, as you cast about commie land, there appears to be a quiet panic building, and the closing argument seems to be nothing more than Trump is Hitler and let's kill babies. Really?
Yeah,
That's your closing argument?
I mean, they're bringing out that tired old argument on Trump being Hitler again. And I mean, if anybody's run an authoritarian government, it's the Biden administration.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm glad to see Trump hitting back finally on, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? The answer, of course, is absolutely not. And I always thought he ought to be saying, you know, she made the mess and I'm here to clean it up. And he is doing that, too. So I think that's the right message. But, you know, as I was saying before, I mean, the clues here with these Democrat senators now running not pro-Trump ads, but mentioning him or featuring him in their ads. I mean, what's that? That tells you everything you need to know in those critical states. Again, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Wisconsin. And but if you look at her arguments, really? Hitler again? And all the tired old stuff, of course. Abortion, they will constantly do that, and it's almost a single issue campaign again in the House races in particular. To watch, I know nobody but me watches ads from all around the country, but it's all single issue.
Right.
All single issue abortion coming from the Democrat side. And Republicans don't answer that. And I think that's a huge mistake for them. They made that mistake in 2022, and they're making it again. When the other side has more money than you, and they are running a single issue campaign, you have to answer that issue to some degree. And the answer is, as Marco Rubio proved in Florida when he was in a tough race, and the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, they went on the offense and talked about how the Democrat opponent is the extremist because they're for late-term abortion and they're against parental consent for minors. Why these Republicans aren't using that is beyond me. Those guys proved that worked. It is a good counter to what the Democrats are talking about. In every ad now, they drag out some woman talking about, oh, I would have died if it wasn't for this. You know, the 1 in a million type of situation that they talk about. And there's no response. And I think it's going to cost the Republicans in the House. I really do. And you could see a Democrat majority there, even with a Trump victory of 1 or 2 seats. I mean, the House is really going to be tight. And Gary, you and I are going to be talking about the House after the election for weeks because it's going to take that long to figure it out. Yeah. Because with the way they count the ballots in California and now Arizona and these western states where there's a lot of competitive House races, we are going to be in political overtime for a long time on the House. I think we'll know the Senate on election night.
Yeah.
And the president, they'll probably delay it for a couple of days because the networks will not want to project a Trump win. But eventually, I think at least in the election week, we should have a final number. I think people are going to demand that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this nonsense, I think was it Fox News or I can't remember which media outlet was saying some state that maybe it was Arizona was going to take 13 or 14 days to come up of what? 2 weeks?
Oh, it is
Wars have been fought in less time.
Well, and in California, it's going to be longer than that because it always has been. But the problem
this was the presidential number.
Normally, it does.
This was the presidential number.
Oh, that's
going to take you 2 weeks, really.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they won't matter in the end. I think Trump wins there, but that's another reason they're going to delay it as long as they can.
Sure.
But
they will not want to swallow that bite of humble pie. They will do everything in their power to not have to admit he's won.
Yeah. Why it's going to take so long in those states is, I mean, California claims they verify every signature that comes in the mail, and it's almost all mail. So we're talking about over 17 million ballots that they have to go through, and then they don't even count every day. So they verify the signatures, and Arizona says they're doing that too now, and they've adopted the California system, and that's why it's going to take that long. Because, you know, they were under a lot of attack for their system last time. So this is what they're saying they're doing to solve it. But it's really going to delay things a lot.
Yeah. You know, When you and I were younger, Jim, this was all done before we went to bed. This is garbage. This election system is just rife with the ability of corruption. It's terrifying.
And the other problem is these states that allow the ballots to come in after the election.
Yeah, well, Michigan added another week.
Yeah. And you've got Washington and Oregon started that back in 20 plus years ago when they were the first two states to go to all mail.
Right.
But I'll give Oregon credit because they still make you get the ballots in on election day. Whereas Washington was the one that started this. Well, if it's postmarked on election day. Well, but now on these ballots, as you know, they don't use stamps now. They use the barcodes, right?
Right.
Well, the barcode's going to tell you certainly when they receive it, but it doesn't tell you when somebody put it in the mailbox.
Right.
Does it? No. Or in the ballot box of those states that still have those. So, I just think that's bogus. And that's part of the problem because they allow these ballots to come in after the election.
Right.
And most of the states now do that.
Yeah, it's horrible. They should go back to the way it was. It worked. We knew the winner. Everything was done. If you want to do early voting, you can do it 3 days in advance. If somebody can't get out to the polls on Friday or Saturday or Sunday or Monday before Election Day, and they have to go on Election Day, okay, this mail-in thing and absentee thing and postmark and goes on for a month and we'll worry about it later and we'll have a winner declared within 2 years. It's the ability to cheat. We can take a look.
It's really nonsense.
It's insane. It's completely stupid. If there was a way to handle it across the board, which I know it can't be because it's 50 different states and they run their own elections, but I mean, this is crazy. All right, got to hit our commercial break here, but when you come back, I want to talk to you. We kind of flip things around. I wanted to talk to you about all the congressional stuff and all of that, which we will touch on, as well as the Supreme Court. But when you come back, I want to be sure to touch on why do you think there is so much internal strife inside the Kamala campaign? Because that's all we're hearing. Some loud voices, some lesser voices, but nobody is saying, hey, things are cheery, we're all confident. Come back right after this.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size MyPillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
No matter who wins in November, we have to embrace that we are living in a post-Christendom culture. And the heart of that is a rejection of the gospel. As one item on our agenda to combat this, Souls and Liberty is hosting our first annual retreat at sea. You might be familiar with the annual event we produced for over 10 years at Church Militant. Dr. Jules Gomez, our Rome correspondent, and I are going to be doing the presenting, and the theme is Christians in Exile Triumphing in Adversity, which provides a whole range of discussions to think about. Now, we sail out of Galveston, Texas to the Western Caribbean November 10th to the 17th, yes, right after the election. I think all of us are probably going to need it one way or the other. Please join us for serious discussion, spiritual preparation, and bonding, very important, bonding with fellow Catholics. Registration information is provided below and on our site at soulsandliberty.com/retreat-at-sea 2024. So sign up and we hope to see you there. All right, welcome back, Jim. The rest of D.C., we talked about Congress already. Very quickly, how do you think things are shaping up in the Senate? And then can you also touch on when Inauguration Day arrives, 4 of the Supreme Court justices will be over 70. 3 of them are conservative. So first, give us a little quick sum up on the Senate, then talk to us about the Supreme Court.
It looks good for Republicans right now. I think they're at least at 51, flipping West Virginia and Montana. I think the Ohio trend looks real good for Republicans right now, 52. Going beyond 52, that may be a stretch. We're talking about Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan. I don't know. I don't know about those, but I think 51 is locked. 52 looks pretty good in Ohio, and we'll see if we can get beyond that. But that's important to get beyond that because if you want a sustained majority, because you've got maps for the Senate. Remember, only a third of the Senate is up every 2 years, but the next two, 26 and 28, favor the Democrats. This one favors the Republicans by a lot.
Yeah, you're trying to build up a little bit of a buffer for the next election. But then again, I mean,
that's what they need.
If Trump wins and the economy's turning around, I mean, who knows? Some of those Democrats might be imperiled. You know, what are they going to run on? Trump sucks when everybody's got, $1.50 gas again. Very quickly, Supreme Court. I mean, this is why you want the Senate. Many reasons, but specifically 4 justices will be 70 on Inauguration Day, and 3 of them are conservatives.
Yes. Well, that's the importance of winning the presidency. I mean, if Harris wins, then we're in some serious trouble. They try to flip or pack the court. Now, don't forget. I mean, there's still a way they could get a trifecta here, meaning the president, Senate, and House. Now, let's say West Virginia flips and that's 50-50, and John Tester in Montana rebounds and the Ohio race doesn't come through. Well, that's 50-50. Or you have an upset of a Republican in Nebraska, or Ted Cruz loses. I don't think either of those happened, but if that did, I mean, there's still an outside chance that Democrats could hold on.
Sure.
Then they're going to get rid of the filibuster. They've already said that. And Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, who stood strong on that, they're both gone next year because they didn't run for re-election. And then you've got, if they win the presidency and they win the House, I mean, it's the Supreme Court's gone. Or if they pack the court, the ramifications are awful for conservatives if this turns out badly on next week or by mid-December or whenever we finally find a solution.
Placing bets on.
And the reason I said that, the certification deadline in California is December the 13th. They have that long to make the election official. New York is second longest, and that's December 12th.
That's crazy.
So for the House races, we could be going on that long.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Last question very quickly. Why do you think, I mean, because they don't feel comfortable, but that so much news keeps seeping out of the Kamala campaign? And brother, there ain't no joy coming out of that campaign right now. There's finger pointing, there's blaming, dudes, the election's 8 days away and you're already kind of dismantling your own campaign.
Another great sign. I mean, they wouldn't obviously be doing that. You don't see that on the Trump side, do you?
No.
It verifies these numbers we're seeing that Trump is doing well and that he's got the momentum. I mean, that verifies it better than anything else. I'm amused, and I have been from day one, frankly, on the Democratic internals, because there are two major consultants that they clearly don't listen to and have kind of ostracized.
Yeah.
James Carville and David Axelrod.
Yep.
Gary, what do those 2 guys have in common?
They both won.
They both won national campaigns. And those are 2 guys they're not listening to. So, and, when you look at their public comments, some of the things they said, it would have gotten them back on the right track. So,
do we know how many early votes have been cast already? I think Thursday it was like 19 million.
We're knocking on the door of 40 million.
Okay, so that's probably, if you go on the 160-ish million before, that's going, as of now, there's about a quarter of the vote already in.
No, it's not going to be 100. In terms of total vote,
right?
160. Yes, correct. So in 2020, which was, remember, we had the emergency all-mail stuff around the country.
Right.
They had 92 million early votes in 2020. So right around 40. Now. So I don't think they're going to get to the same level. But the state laws, went back to the way they used to be, because that was emergency and all that nonsense about we have to do mail ballots because of COVID, of course.
Right.
So they're on a track probably to get 80, maybe not even 80, 75 in that range. I think 75 to 78 million. I don't think we'll hit the 158 million total turnout that we did last time in 2020, but probably around 150, a little over 150.
So about half the vote will have come in by this coming weekend, and then whatever gets left off is Election Day. And Election Day, unless the Democrats pull some sort of psychological flip, they don't show up on Election Day. They do all their voting early. And that Election Day that's GOP land.
It should be. If the previous patterns are still in existence this time, yes, it will be. So again, signs are positive right now. So we'll keep monitoring it for the rest of the week and just see what happens when we open those ballots and count them here, at least to start the count on November 5th.
That's right. Well, Jim, we'll take a look at all of this at least next Monday as one final preview before the end of election season on November 5th. Weird you have to even classify as that. Thanks very much, Jim, for coming on. The man who knows. Thank you, brother.
And then we'll go into political overtime. We can count on that.
Oh, yeah. All righty. Liberal women are so enthralled by the Michelle Obama speech because they think it absolves them from having murdered their children. They love hearing the virtue signaling surrounding the very hard cases, kind of like the 1% of cases, because in their guilt for killing their own offspring, it provides, they think, an emotional escape hatch for the other 99% of cases, which always boil down to they just want consequence-free sex. That's it. But somewhere down the road, those very real consequences, they do catch up to them. And when it does, emotional illness can be dealt with in one of two ways. You can either double down on it or you can fight it. The emotional travesty so many women would have to go through to face the music that they murdered their own child in their own womb is so terrible that they don't want to face it and they don't fight it. So they resort to self-medicating and actually celebrate it, because if everyone supports them and they can hear empowering women like Oprah and Kamala and Michelle bless their heinous actions, then killing their baby, that was a good thing. Extreme emotional illness drives the Dems' desire for child murder, nothing else. Until this fact is openly discussed, this insanity of blessing and supporting, even cheering for national child sacrifice will continue. God love you. I'm Gary Michael Voris.